let's take a quick look at the past week in New Japan Pro Wrestling, where they had their biggest event of the year, Wrestle Kingdom 17 on January 4th, 2023. A 6-hour wrestling show is a little too much for me, honestly. Especially if, let's be honest, 4 of those 6 hours weren't that good. Most of the matches at Wrestle Kingdom didn't really tell good enough stories for my liking. Of course, the Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega match delivered for sure. The story that it told was that Kenny Omega basically really did have to beat the hell out of Will Ospreay. And Ospreay, of course, was coming into this after cutting the promo of his career against Kenny Omega, where he delivered the fact that he is taking this match personal. Whereas for Omega, this is just strictly business. And Omega was right in that this was not Will Ospreay being ready to grab the torch and run with it. That was the story this match told. Omega did have to, Ospreay had a heart in this match. They kicked the hell out of each other. And these kind of matches aren't always my cup of tea in New Japan, where it is just a bunch of major moves that don't get these people wins. It's a total lack of psychology that a lot of modern wrestling has. I make these classic wrestling videos where it was nothing but psychology. And I'm very old school with that, I guess, even though I'm really not that old. But I still enjoyed Ospreay versus Omega because I do feel like it told the story that Ospreay had a lot of heart. Omega was beating him to within an inch of his life, and then Ospreay had this last burst of energy, desperation moves to get the win, but he didn't have a minute, and he fell just short of beating Omega and becoming the man with the torch. And also, I gotta be honest, I'm just not a big fan of Will Ospreay as it is. I know a lot of wrestling enthusiasts and a lot of dirt sheet people will praise Ospreay for his matches. But like I said, his type of matches are just not my cup of tea. A lot of his moves usually don't mean a whole lot of anything. So why should he be over in the first place if he has a lot of high impact moves that don't win in matches? But I do feel like Wrestle Kingdom 17, the promo before it, and this match with Omega was some of my favorite stuff from Will Ospreay ever. So I have to give him props for that. Another great match on the card for me was Akira and TJP taking on Lio Rush and Yo. That was the opener for Wrestle Kingdom 17, technically, after the pre-show. I thought that was a great opening match. The pace was great for me. It had great spots. And, of course, the big thing for American fans, I guess, was that Sasha Banks was going to be making her debut for New Japan Pro Wrestling. She's now calling herself Mercedes Mone, basically, or Mone, whatever. Her debut was a little tepid, but I mean that's how a Japan crowd is. It's not going to be like this huge pop. It's Japan. She also had this botch. A lot of people blaming her. A lot of people blaming Kairi for dropping down too fast. The move that Sasha Banks wanted to do was it's a hard move to pull off. A hard move for both wrestlers to pull off. It takes both wrestlers to pull off that move. So I don't know if Mercedes should keep that as a finishing maneuver. It could lead to a lot of botches. Mercedes Mone looked like $1 million for sure. And it is no coincidence that New Japan Pro Wrestling's streaming service had its most subscribers ever for this Wrestle Kingdom. You can definitely say that Mercedes moves the needle. Of course, Mercedes also being speculated that she's going to be signing with AEW as well. It seems that she's very happy to be free from WWE's terrible booking, and I can't blame her for that. So it's cool to see Mercedes in New Japan. My biggest gripe with Wrestle Kingdom was that they gave the women's title match a whole 5 or 6 minutes. Kari versus Nakano got a whole 6 minutes, and it was building up to be a good match. This could have been a great match if it just had like 10 more minutes. But instead, it just had 6 minutes to it. New Japan has never really respected women's wrestling, in my opinion. They finally create this women's title, IWGP women's title, but then they only give it 6 minutes. So, that was a pretty big negative for me on the Wrestle Kingdom show. They could have gave some of these other matches lesser time just to give that match a little more time. It's pretty disrespectful. And if this was the WWE, you best believe wrestling fans would be irate with the fact that they only gave the one women's match of the night 6 whole minutes. I guess their argument would be, well, they had to spend time on Mercedes' debut, but I don't like that excuse either. New Japan as a whole, a lot of people call it stale, and I have to agree completely. New Japan is definitely stale over the past few years. It's time to move on from some of the stuff they've been doing for 2 years now. I probably won't talk about New Japan too often on this channel, only the bigger events like this, because it is stale. But I had to talk about it because I am a fan of Mercedes Mone. So I will definitely watch her match for New Japan in February and probably talk about that as well. But hopefully New Japan can turn its staleness around. A lot of people saying this was a great event and that maybe this could be a turning point for the company. I don't know if I agree with that. I thought it was an okay event. Like I said, 4 of the 6 hours was mediocre or bad. And only 2 of the hours actually gave us some good quality matches. It's definitely not enough to turn around the staleness. I think New Japan has a lot of work to do if it doesn't want to be seen as stale any longer.